And it's such an important piece to continue to return to continue to nurture yourself well by first and foremost acknowledge that the earth is always holding you. And it was a massive aha drop moment for me, that realization that the earth always holds me, and I hadn't realized it before. I was almost like weeping because I hadn't realized how important this was, that I hadn't presenced it, and now it's an essential part of how I manage myself. Hello, welcome into a new episode of When Sarah Met Clara, with me, Clara Apollo, and my lovely chief sister, Sarah Chave. Hi, Sarah.
Clara, amazing to be with you again and talk about the earth element today.
Indeed, because
we're moving into in late summer.
So we've been visiting each of the elements, haven't we, in this life? It's got to be nearly a year we've been doing this for. So since we actually met each other in Portugal last October, and we're recording this in September. So when we come to our metal element one, which will be the next one, it'll be our year anniversary of When Sarah Met Clara. Yay! So it's great to come back into the earth element, as you say, and I think it's just so, I say magical, is that the right word, that the Chinese medicine perspective on the five elements brings another season in between the summer and the autumn. It's like a real honoring of this golden harvest time, this late summer earth element, and I think that's a really precious thing to acknowledge here.
Yeah, it's the still point. It's the pause. And you could look at it as the pause between all the elements. I mean, it does in Chinese medicine, it does come in between the fire element, the summer, and the autumn, which is the metal element. But you could look at it. Another way that I've worked with the five element is to put the earth in the middle. So rather than it being circular,
I do
have
too.
the earth in them, and it's the returning point. So you could then look at it as late summer, late autumn, late winter, late spring, etc. Late summer.
Well, that's right. I think I learnt this from an acupuncturist that was, I think we maybe even mentioned it back in an earlier episode, that we visit the earth element in between each of the shifts of between the elemental seasons, but this time it's for longer. So whereas, between water and wood, you're just going in for maybe a week or so. I don't know, you kind of feel your way, don't you? Oh, is it over yet? Are we ready to move on? It's not quite like that. But now there's actually this late summer season, which takes in the harvest time. I think for me, I sense it's between like Lammas and equinox. That kind of feels, and that whole callback, as you say, call back into stillness again after the frenzy of summer and the festivals we've been to and the conviviality we've been sharing. It's like, whoo, now we need to just come in and rest for a bit, actually physically rest, reminding ourselves how to reroute into the Great Mother and just come back down to earth in a beautiful way, not in a way that you're grounded. It's more like, come back to Mama, come and tell her what you've been getting up to, or just come and lie on the earth, come and presence yourself and let all that bounty of the summer kind of integrate and land. And because, like we said before, if we go too fast from one thing into the other, and not only is our energy compromised, but also we're not honoring what we've just been through. The earth always gives us time to reflect and integrate, and so I think it's a precious time, as I said, to be acknowledging it right now.
Yeah, and the earth element is all about nourishment, which makes perfect sense because the organs that are associated with it are the spleen and the stomach. So, and the mouth is also associated with it. So it's that receiving, allowing ourselves to deeply receive and be nourished. So that is not just from the food, it's from the situations in our life. Obviously there's that abundance in nature, the fruits. So we are literally harvesting, and we are nourished in that way. So that plentifulness is being reflected in nature, but also in terms of being nourished by the people, the situations that we draw in our life, and really letting in those nourishing situations, really deeply receiving, and then how that kind of replenishes us
Yeah, I
physically,
love that.
emotionally, spiritually, on all levels.
Yeah, it's that whole turn the TV off thing, isn't it? Whatever you're receiving is a form, you could look at it as a form of, well, nourishment. And therefore, do you want to be watching horror movies? I never watch horror movies. Why would I do that? I don't want to scare myself. Do I want to hang out with people who are always complaining? I have to just graciously step away, wish them all the best, of course, but not be in their energy field too much. That discernment piece. So I think that is really, what was that saying, that you are the the culmination of the 5 people that you hang out with the most, or something, that you are very influenced by the people that you hang out with. And so I really feel for folk that live in family situations that they can't get away from. And I think that things like this podcast and other podcasts and other ways that you can tune into your soul tribe is real nourishment that we need to nurture ourselves well, just as the food we eat, high vibed, and the water we drink, of course. So it's paying attention, isn't it? All these different streams of ways that energy comes in, and how we can discern whether we want to engage with it or not.
I love that you've brought that in, because on a consciousness level, the virtuous expression of the earth element is integrity. And actually, a lot of people don't necessarily understand what true integrity is. Integrity, like if we look at the earth element, it's associated with thinking and worry. So, we can either have that clear thinking, or we can allow the worry to spiral out of control, where we're worrying about things that we cannot change. If we're worrying about things we cannot change, that's not integrity, because the integrity is to, when you look at the stomach, it worries the food. It churns it over and over and over and over.
It
And
worries the food.
that is a good
Sarah
worry.
Chave, my stomach worries the food. I always feel that about microwaves. Oh, I won't touch them for food because it disturbs all the molecules. It worries the molecules. But I'm not sure that the stomach worries the food. But I get the food.
So
It
it's this
certainly
idea of churning it over.
I
It's
think it agitates. It agitates the
yeah.
food.
So it's basically this idea of churning this energy of, we can either use it internally and churn over and over and over food, which is good, healthy digestion. We're meant to churn the food. We're meant to break down the food. We're meant to go over and over and over it. That's a healthy use of worry. Or we can worry about external things that are happening. Or what if this happens? That's not a good use of worry. So we're bringing that worry energy back into ourselves to have strong digestion of things that are happening in our world and in our life.
Right. This word worry is concerning me. Because it's such a trigger word. It's such a
Sure,
trigger
yeah.
word. And actually that's what because when my son used to go away for holidays with his dad over to America, and he was about 6 or 7, and I'm like, oh my goodness, my boy's up in the air flying. Oh, worry, worry, worry. And it's like, hang on a minute, what is this really? Oh,
But
it's
that's the
deep.
thing
It's
about
deep.
Chinese
It's
medicine.
hang on, hang on, hang on.
Sure.
It's not worry. Or you can transform this energy of worry into a deep concern. And that, just bringing the word concern rather than worrying, helped me manage my worries, because it
Sure.
didn't stop me from going, oh, I mustn't worry because I mustn't do, that's the bad energy. It's like, no, I shifted it. And then I trusted that he was on his soul journey, his life path, and I wasn't helping by worrying. None of us help anything by worrying. We can be concerned, and we can be aware, and certainly this integrity piece. And yes, the stomach does need to do some agitation, and I think that edginess of agitation is great. But worry for me is a word, a bit like should. I don't use it anymore.
I get it. And it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because that often comes up with anger as well, but if we're looking, traditionally at the 5 elements, the earth element is associated with worry.
Yeah.
So it's about bringing that energy into, like, worry energy is important energy. That's one of the fundamental forces. That's why we have it. And the same with anger. Anger helps us move forward, can be used in a really positive way, or can you be used in a negative way. So it's bringing that into balance, internalizing it, so that we have the resources to nourish ourselves, rather than necessarily worry about everything externally.
No,
So
I'm
that's
not bringing any worry into me. Sorry, I'm going to have to disagree with you on this point, but
It's
that's the
okay.
beauty
That's
of these
okay. I mean, this is
conversations,
just
isn't it?
traditional Chinese medicine.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
what's the interesting thing is that the association with these words, like we were talking previously in the wood element about anger. And often people, have this belief it's not okay to be angry. But if we actually work with it as soon as it arises, and use it to make change in our lives, then it's very happy. And it's the same with worry. It's like, if you notice the worry and draw it back into how can I nourish and nurture myself, that's when the integrity piece comes in.
right.
So
So the
it's
piece
worrying
that is
about
that you can
ourselves. It's worrying about taking
concern,
really good care of
concern.
ourselves,
It's
having
concern.
enough self-worth that we worry about what we can change.
I think the word alchemy could be dropped in here as well. We're all alchemists, and we can alchemize whatever we're experiencing by acknowledging that there's always going to be some wisdom here beyond that initial spark of whatever it is. Maybe it's grief or fear. Those are some of the other ones that we can get into, and noticing them and recognizing that they're just messengers. They're just trying to tell us something, and to own it and work with it and alchemize it in a wise way, in a way that
Absolutely.
nurtures you.
Absolutely. And the earth element is the energy of transformation. If you look at that churning of the food, it changes it into energy. So that's ultimately what we're wanting to achieve, is that nourishment, that deep nourishment that replenishes us. So that we can really deeply receive. And a lot of the block to that can be this sense of, I'm not worthy of receiving. That can be a big block to really allowing in that nourishment. So that's kind of like the consciousness of the spleen working with it, so that we can really feel that sense of, I am worthy, I am worth taking care of, I am going to, put my energy into this rather than worrying about what's going on externally that I can't change.
Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
easier said than done, as you've so pointed out. With this energy of worry, it can tend to spiral, so it's that drawing
Well, it,
in.
it it disempowers you. That's why I don't use the word anymore, because it's a disempowering word. But there's an energy behind it of concern that is important to consider. And I think, because we're both wearing yellow, let's bring in the color here. So the color of the earth element in traditional Chinese medicine is golden yellow. Why is it golden yellow? Why is it not deep, rich copper? Well, got a brown on as well. But from, I don't know about your experience here, but from mine and my Chinese medicine studies, it was said that it was the relationship that the earth has with the sun, and the warming effect that the sun has on the earth, and the life-giving effect that the sun has of the earth, that the earth responds to the golden light. And I just thought that was a beautiful sort of way of understanding that. I don't know if you've got something to add to that.
I've really always known that as being the color that's associated, without necessarily knowing why. But I've done a lot of work with Master Mantak Chia, and I know that when you bring those colors into the
Oh, yeah.
organs, they're
Yeah,
very, very healing. So if you're actually bringing in
exactly.
the color yellow to the spleen and the stomach, that actually will help to heal.
Yeah. And when I was doing my color psychology training, it was like the golden yellow color is very associated with the solar plexus. And of course, that is central to where the stomach, spleen, and pancreas live. I always put the spleen in there as well, and put the pancreas in as well. It seems it's because it's a deeply seated
Absolutely.
organ, and we often forget about the pancreas, but it's like it's so deep in the earth of our bodies. So here we have all the earth element organs across the middle of our bodies aligned with the solar plexus. And what is that about, chakra wise? It's about, I am presence. I am a shining being of light. But this is also where the anxieties can drop in, where you don't feel worthy. So I think the gold in yellow is a beautiful color to, as you say, use in a nurturing way. There we have another form of nurture coming in. What colors are around you? You know, when I was living home free and I didn't have my wardrobe with me all the time, it was one of the most frustrating things, is that I had to put on what I had rather than what I felt like, because, you know, color is a medicine just as food is, and just as your meditations and your movements are. And it's looking for a conscious weave, or a synchronistic weave of these different threads of nourishment that we have in our lives that come into our home, our earth, our bodies, to make sense to us, so that we can then serve from a bountiful cup. You know, it always comes back to this: we have to look after ourselves first, and it's a multi-pronged approach, isn't it? And we're not always going to get it right, but we're up for the dance.
I love that you brought in the solar plexus, because, you know, obviously that's from the chakra system, and, you know, we're looking at the Chinese medicine understanding, you know, of the color yellow as well. And, you know, both are linked, you know, either from the chakra system or you know, to the color yellow. And they're all linked with the digestive system. You know, both the solar plexus governs the digestive system. It's also our center of personal power, which, if you're looking at the spleen, it's that self-worth, you know. So there's this huge interrelationship there happening via the color yellow. So it's that understanding then of frequency, and, you know, what that's resonating as well, and how that aligns with different parts of our body, you know. So that whole digestive system, two different systems have aligned it with that frequency and color. So
it's quite exciting, isn't it?
It's like an affirmation. And this is what's so beautiful when we start to dance with all these different systems. You know, they are basically saying very similar things.
Yeah, take good care of yourself. And I'd just like to presence the spleen as well. You know, the spleen gets kind of almost ignored in Western medicine. It's like, you know, people have the spleen removed. They say it doesn't really do anything. And yet in Chinese medicine, it's one of the fundamental that to nurture really deeply. And how interesting is that, you know, that the spleen isn't revered in Western medicine, yet it's such an integral part of our digestive system, but also, as you know anyway, that it's got a real holding sense to it. It kind of helps to hold everything together, holds everything. It's like I described it was like the spleen's in the center of a web, like a cobweb in the center with the spider, and then and it keeps it all together. The web, everything, it sort of comes out from the spleen to be held well and to be held within integrity. So, and of course the earth holds us. The earth always holds us, and we forget this. And it's such an important piece to continue to return to continue to nurture yourself well by, first and foremost, acknowledge that the earth is always holding you. And I don't know about you, Sarah, but that was a massive aha drop moment for me when I first started doing my qigong training. Was that realization that the earth always holds me, and I hadn't realized it before. I was almost like weeping because I hadn't realized how important this was, that I hadn't presenced it, and now it's an essential part of how I manage myself. And
it's really interesting, and like being open to that. I know Master Mantak Chia, you know, as I say, I've studied a lot with him, been along to a lot of his live events. And one of the things that he's mentioned, because he has all these hundreds of practices, and it's really funny because he says, oh, this one's really important, it only takes 5 minutes, this one you must do. And then it's like, you realize all these 5 minutes, it's like you've got hours worth of practice a day. But one of the things he did say was that if you can smile into Mother Earth and allow yourself to deeply release into Mother Earth, then that's the only practice that you need to do.
That's what I'm saying. And he's not going to be the only person that says this. Sarah Chave says this.
Yeah.
You say this, other people say this, because it's a fundamental truth that the earth is actually designed, as you said, it's a transformationary place. It will transform, it will compost our energetic waste. Who knew that? We're not taught this at school. But it's a fundamental truth that that's what the earth does. And it's almost like it disempowers us when we don't acknowledge that, you know.
So it's like releasing, and I think, you know, people perhaps have, you know, don't want to do that because there's a sense of honoring the earth, you know, and not wanting to give our, excuse my language, compost or shit to the earth. But actually, you know, if you look at that, that is actually compost to Mother Earth. It's that beautiful exchange that we have with trees, with oxygen and carbon dioxide. We have that same exchange with Mother Earth. So actually, you know, if we can release our emotions and baggage into Mother Earth, that's actually incredibly healing and nurturing. Mantak Chia tells this beautiful story of a man, you know, how they, in Thailand and other countries, they carry weights, you know, across their shoulder with sticks and bags or whatever on the end. Anyway, there was this man that was carrying this bag, you know, carrying this heavy weight, and someone came past in a truck and said, would you like a lift? And this man had the lift. He was taking him to his destination, and the truck drivers could hear this funny noise, boom, 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 in the back. And he looked and he saw the man running along, you know, walking along in the back of the truck with his thing, still carrying it. And he sort of got out the truck and said, you know, you can just put the weight down and allow me to carry you. And, you know, this seems like a kind of crazy sort of anecdote, but that is what we do. We carry all this stuff. And actually, the invitation is to allow ourselves to fully let go into Mother Earth, and then to allow ourselves to receive the nurturing, nourishing energies from Mother Earth. You know, that is the journey. And ultimately, that's all we need to do. But it is it's
We have to get
simpler
out of the
said
busy
than
world.
done, isn't it? As
Well,
with our conversation with worry earlier, you know, it's like if we do allow that energy to be that nurturing force rather than that kind of difficult force, you know, it's like,
yeah, you're bringing up surrender here. You know,
yes,
surrendering in to what already is. We are already held. Whenever you don't feel you are, you just have to remember you are. And that when you surrender to the flow of life. You don't try and push against it. And I'd like to add to that. You surrender to the flow of life, but also to the energy that is inspiring you. You know, it's like from, say, riding on the chi. And so it's sitting back in the saddle, into the back of yourself, planted into the earth, presencing your heart and your connection to the heavens, and just let yourself ride the energy. And sometimes that, like in the truck, sometimes it will stop and you will rest for a bit because, oh yeah, it's nighttime, that's usual. And then but then you would also ride the energy at night because it would be the energy of stillness, the energy of holding, the energy of healing. And that was something that really helped me to not feel like I've got to get all this energy and I've got to use it. No, the energy's already here. How do I tap into this? And I think that's why I was fascinated by, I still am, still very much like a student of the Qigong ways, of the Taoist ways, of like, how else can I do this? Like with the way we are in our world, all these to-dos we have to attend to, and particularly most of our work comes in and out of computers now, and how that affects our bodies, and how do we manage that? You know, well, the
yes,
earth is always calling us back to be held, come back into balance, because that's another quality,
it
characteristics of
really
the earth is
is
about
that
balance.
balance point, that still point, that returning point, that, you know, just reminding us that we need to do that within each every day, you know, return to that earth. I love that you've highlighted the surrender as well, because that is the metal element, the surrender, and it's then how the earth element feeds into the metal, you know, by holding us, by allowing us to be replenished, by allowing us to be nourished. We then have that space where we can start to let go of all that's no longer serving us, which is what we move into with the metal element. So again, we're kind of weaving that connection through this discussion, which is so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, and how each element supports the one after it, but also has a connection with all the other ones. Like you mentioned, the wood element earlier, and of course, water's always present for us too. And yeah, I'll be looking forward to talking about the metal element. It's one of the ones that challenged me the most, but one that I love dearly. But before we get there, you know, presencing the earth, being with the earth, and honoring the earth and loving the earth, and like you said, that thing about when you let go of all the old crud that is ready to leave. My way of feeling into that is that when you presence yourself on the earth, you don't even need to do anything apart from root down and acknowledge and send gratitude from your heart to hers, because then it's an automatic energetic exchange. It's almost got nothing to do with you logically. It just happens naturally, because we are part of nature, and so the earth will automatically be receiving whatever your system's ready to release, and will then release new, fresh, abundant chi up into the space that's being produced by that. So, it's trusting the process, that we are part of nature. Of course we are. And so when we connect with her more, she's there for us. She's there for us big time.
So just really offering that as a really simple practice today, that smiling into the earth, connecting with our heart, and then just smiling, sending our loving, smiling energy down into Mother Earth, and being open to what we receive back. How does Mother Earth respond to us when we send our smiling, loving energy? And maybe that's just something that we can work with over the coming weeks.
Well, I think it's also a very simple practice that, like you said earlier, there's many, many, many different, 5-minute short practice, do this, this, and this. But sometimes when we're in the field, we don't have a lot of time, but we have a moment where we go, oh my goodness, it's all too much. But like you say, breathing into your heart and the smiling energy. And if you add that quality of gold and yellow to your smile, try and see how that feels as you nurture your heart and your stomach, your spleen, your pancreas, your solar plexus. And then you remember, and lovely to send that energy down to the earth in gratitude, that lightness of being. It's like, the earth has such a deep relationship with the sun. The earth wouldn't be able to be as amazing as she is without the sun. In fact, she'd just be like a ball going around somewhere without any light. So that relationship of the golden sun to the earth, if you presence that within yourself, there's that authentic piece of golden light within you, and then as you breathe out, you send that stream of golden loving light down into the earth with a smile of gratitude. And I say do that 3 times and then see how you feel after that.
Particularly if you can go outside and do it and actually connect with the earth.
That's great. But the other thing, because we're coming into the autumn time, before I was out doing some practice on the community farm last night, and we're saying, let's remember how it feels to do this, because in the depths of winter, the memory that we have of when our feet are on the true planet surface, and our hands, we actually had the palms of our hands on as well. That memory is an important one to engender. So you got to do it first to be able to create the memory. But it's always great to be on true planet surface whenever you can.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
It's
always such a joy to connect with you, Clara.
It's great, isn't it?
Thank you everyone for listening. We'll look forward to working with the metal elements when we next see you.
Exploring it in our own inimitable fashion here on When Sarah Met Clara.